Hi, I'm Chris James, and you're watching A Healthy Alternative. Today, I want to talk about the benefits of Michael, and today we're going to be talking about...
Today we'll be making one of my favorite soups.
Welcome to the
Creamy tomato
JR72 Challenge.
I am Animated Mel, and I am your mental and wellness coach for
As always, perfection is not needed, but consistency.
We must first lovingly accept what is. You can't heal a body you can't.
No matter what, you have to put yourself first. If you're not aware that there's change that needs to be made, how can you fix it? This information is fire.
I had to come to the realization that, number one, I was an emotional eater.
We need to accept the decisions that we make, because if we can do that, then we have the power to change them. You came here so that way you can start moving into your heaven path.
Once again, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
We're going to bring up your next speaker. That's going to be the wonderful, magnificent Chris James.
If you talk about how much you hate your fat, your body has been working all this time to keep you alive. I don't think anybody in my circle understands impossible. Howdy doody. Howdy doody. This internet is lagging. It is so annoying to do these calls with this laggy internet, and I don't know why it's lagging. Give me 1 second, y'all. See if we can fix it. Is it still laggy? Yes, it is. Maybe it's not the internet. Maybe it's my camera setup. Anyway, if you guys can hear me and see me, let me know. I'm going to go back over to my other connection real quick because I don't think it's the connection. Today we have an interesting topic. I was recently I was on Instagram and I saw this extremely disturbing video. Okay, so you guys don't see the lag. It's on my end. I saw this very disturbing video, and I talked about it in a pretty recent live stream where children have started taking video footage of the food that they're being served at school because it's so trifling. So I want to pull that footage up. I want to kind of react to that footage with you all, and then I want to go into what this sparked in my mind as how did we get here? How did we get to a place where our food is that trifling? And what impact has it had on us holistically? So it's a lot to cover, but I think it's going to be a great call, and we're going to have some fun with this topic. So give me 1 second. I'm going to pull this clip. Last time we had issues with the clip, so this time I downloaded it. So I'm looking to get around those issues.
Across the country.
Okay, so let me see if I can get this playing for you all. And then when the video starts playing, y'all, let me know if you can hear it and see it. So everything's good. We know everything's good to go. Share audio. to share the audio. Instead. All right, let me know if you guys can hear this.
The images of what's on the menu at their schools and a new phenomenon called lunch shaming.
All right, let me know if you guys were able to hear that. I just played a short clip. Make sure everything is showing up right. As soon as you guys let me know, we'll keep going. Lunch shaming is what they're calling this. All right. Thank you. We got one participant. Thank you very much. I really appreciate that. All right, let's go.
Kids across the country are posting images of what's on the menu at their schools and a new phenomenon called lunch shaming.
How is that milk? Cafeteria food has always been the butt of jokes, but this isn't funny.
Look at what they're giving us at lunch.
Students, disgusted by what they're being served, are taking their beef online.
Look at this. This is the main meal. It looks like puke and applesauce. Nasty.
In Paris, New Jersey, parents are up in arms after images of moldy food and expired milk were shared online. Can you even tell what this is? Apparently, it's supposed to be a chicken cheesesteak sandwich.
It's disgusting. And I definitely would not feed that to my children. I'm not sure that I would feed it to my pet.
Before the pandemic, many schools used to make lunch in the cafeteria. Due to staffing shortages and budget issues, those days are gone. Now, lunch is prepared by outside vendors. Students in Woodbridge, New Jersey say the food is inedible.
There's enough that us as parents have to worry about.
Okay. So I think that's pretty much the end of the clip. I really wanted you all to see this clip because I'm sure many of you all have children that are probably still in school, and I'm sure that you're not aware of what they're eating. They may not bring it up to you. It's not something that, is always translates well. When we were younger, our lunch food was trash. And so if the children say the lunch food is trash, you might just assume it's the same stuff that you used to eat. But watching this video, first of all, clearly there's been a major deterioration in the lunch food since COVID. Apparently, COVID seemed to have an impact in pretty much every single sector in areas we just never would have imagined. Being able to use outside vendors to do the lunch food is not a problem. But what's happening is the school districts are vying for the cheapest option. And if we are sending our children, like everybody's children are going to school, for the most part, especially public school. So if the mass majority of people's children are going to public school systems, and we understand that these children are the future of the country, the future of innovation, the future of everything, how is it that it's not a priority to make sure that not only are they getting, quality education, but they're getting healthy food, healthy body, healthy mind? This is all very elementary thing. Like this, there's nothing special about this. This all makes sense. If you feed children trash, their brains don't develop properly. They have learning disabilities, and they don't go on to be the next whatever who invented the greatest whatever, right? So this is all very obvious stuff, in my opinion. I think you all probably would agree with that. So then that means there has to be a concerted effort to do the wrong thing, right? Like this is not happening by accident. So now this brings me to the food pyramid. And I think about when I was in school, like what were they teaching us about health? How were they teaching us to eat? I distinctively remember the food pyramid being literally everywhere. Okay. Now, as a child, I didn't think much of it. It made sense, I guess, that the food pyramid was everywhere. But as an adult and also having the opportunity to look back on the outcomes of what the food pyramid did for us as a country, I'm like, oh, this was 100% propaganda. It was 100% propaganda. They were basically brainwashing us into adopting this eating ideology in order to line the pockets of the big manufacturing companies, the cereal brands, and the meat and dairy, and all these different industries that really are not, they're not there to benefit us. It was never about health and wellness. But today I want to go into some of the background of the food pyramid and just kind of share with you all what I was able to find, and see if everything kind of lines up and why it makes sense that they essentially weaponized the food pyramid against us. So the concept of the food pyramid, it actually originated in Sweden, right? This is in the early 1970s. It's created by this lady Ann Agastar or something like that. She was the head of a test kitchen in the Swedish National Board of Health and Welfare. So the first food pyramid was published in 1974 in response to rising food prices in Sweden, right? They were trying to find a way to guide the public towards affordable, nutritious eating. Now it seems like no matter what it is we're dealing with, when you look at the backstory, it's always rooted in something positive. It's almost as if the powers that be say, okay, this movement has positive roots. Let's see how we can corrupt it. So that way it resonates with us, right? We're all like, okay, cool. That's a great origin story. But then it's used to harm us. So the original food pyramid, the base was bread, grains, potatoes, and then the middle of the pyramid is going to be more of your fruits and vegetables. So it's kind of medium servings. And then at the top, you have your protein sources like meat, dairy, fish, and fats. Okay. So that was the original food pyramid. Now, the USDA decided to adopt the food pyramid and create their own version of it in 1992. So that's the food pyramid that I would have seen, that probably you all would have seen. And that's like, when we talk about the food pyramid, the 92 food pyramid is essentially what we're talking about. But the 92 pyramid was heavily influenced by scientific studies and lobbying from the food industries. Okay. So it wasn't just some lady in a test kitchen who was looking to provide affordable, nutritious options for people. It was being manipulated by large entities and special interest groups that had an agenda. So we have to understand that anytime our health is put into the hands of a special interest group or several different groups that have an agenda to sell and make money and sell profit and sell products, then our health is going to be bottom of the priority list. So they can name it health. They could say all this stuff. It comes from the USDA and all these government bodies and blah, blah, blah. But the reality is, at its root, at its core, it's really about profits. Now, what they're going to do is they're going to make everything look good, right? The science has to match. You can't put something out there and the science isn't there to back it up. But what we do understand about science is that if I have enough money, I can manufacture any science I want. Do y'all understand that? I want you guys to put it in the chat if you get it. Like, put a 1 in the chat if you understand that science can be manipulated any way that you want. When we talk about modern science, do you guys understand that big tobacco would fund studies to prove scientifically that smoking cigarettes was good for you, that there were health benefits? Okay. All right, good. I got some ones coming, so I know who I'm talking to. Okay. If you guys don't know, you could do research in the scientific community. Like, if you want to research the scientific community, and what you'll find is there's politics, there is agendas, and there's all sorts of things that you would not expect to find in the scientific community that actually run the scientific community. Whether you're Big Sugar, whether you're meat and dairy, whether you're, Kellogg's or a cereal company, If you have the money, you can shoot, even the government does this. The government will have an agenda, have a way that they want to go with something. And they will say, hey guys, we have funding available, but here's the results we're looking for. And if you only get the funding if you show us the results we're looking for. Meaning, and this is completely backwards when it comes to science. This is not how science works. But if you have a theory, and then you go and find science to back up that theory. You find facts, scientific facts to back up that theory. That's not how it's supposed to work. You have a theory, and then you find scientific facts to defeat your theory. That's how it's supposed to work. But what we're looking for is confirmation bias. And you guys know the old saying, whatever you're looking for, you will find. Okay. That's why you don't go through your lover's cell phone. Okay. That's just a little message for y'all out there. Don't go through your lover's cell phone. Whatever you're looking for, you will find. All right. So, because of the lobbying and because of the special interest groups and things of that nature, they had an emphasis on the grains and the dairy because those are the people that were paying. Now, while the original Swedish pyramid focused on affordability and balance, the USDA version became the most well-known worldwide, but faced significant criticism for its shortcomings on nutritional advice, which should be the whole point. But once again, this is what I'm saying. They take something good and then they manipulate it and they say, how can we turn this into the most toxic thing ever? Now, I want to talk a little bit about lobbying because this is not a discussion that people really have when it comes to health and wellness, but it affects our health and wellness when you do the research and you follow the money, as some of you have put in the chat. When you're following the money, you understand that the lobbying process is important. So lobbying is when people try to convince governmental leaders to make decisions that's going to help their cause or group. All right. So a simple way to kind of understand this is the process of attempting to influence decisions made by governmental officials, such as legislators and regulators, typically to benefit a special interest or organization. It's also common to practice this in politics, and it's carried out by individual groups or professional lobbyists. Like there's actual lobbyists, meaning that I can become a lobbyist and I could lobby for Kellogg's, or I can lobby for Nike, or I could lobby for the NBA. And I don't even have to be a part of that company. That's how big lobbying is. They can also lobby for like nonprofit organizations or really any entity. Okay. Now, the purpose of lobbying, as we've kind of been talking about, is to persuade a politician, rule, or regulator to kind of see your side of things. People who want to lobby to create new rules or change old rules or stop bad rules. Like I think the reason why lobbying exists, once again, comes from this good idea. Like it's a way for people to have their voice heard and to change bad policy. But at the end of the day, there's problems with lobbying. Okay. And one of the problems with lobbying is the more money you have, the more influence you have. And so typically there's only a certain amount of groups that get access and really see any benefit from lobbying. So it really, like, it sounds like it's good, it sounds like it's fair, but it's actually not. It's only used for pretty much negative purposes. And we see that in outcomes. So a simple example of lobbying would be a cereal company might lobby the government to say that eating lots of grains is healthy, so that schools, families, and different entities will buy more cereal. Right? They can meet with leaders, share studies that make cereal look good, and then ask for food rules that include cereal as a part of a healthy diet. Hence the food pyramid. So if you've got food companies with big bags, and they come to the government and they're like, look at all this science that tells you how healthy cereal is. Why don't you put grains as the most thing that Americans are supposed to consume in the food pyramid? Look how healthy this stuff is. Okay. And so that's kind of how the whole lobbying thing works. And I think that That's what actually created the food pyramid. And it's funny to see, look, at the end of the day, what should be controlling the food pyramid? Like, what, it's easy to understand what should control it. What is the healthiest, most nutritious, well-balanced thing to eat? That's what should control the food pyramid. But instead, we've got special interest groups and different entities with big bags that are like, no, we have science to back up what we're saying. The CEO of Nestle or Kellogg's or somebody recently went on the news. This was recent, last year, I think it was. And they started putting out a campaign that cereal is healthy to eat all day long, and it's more affordable than any other food product. So not only do you get a nutritious meal, but it's cheap and it's easy to consume, it's easy to make. And they did a marketing campaign talking about how healthy cereal is to eat for every meal of the day. Here's the problem. Some of y'all might be thinking, of course, that's BS, right? We know that's just marketing. But there is a group of people, namely children, who grew up eating processed foods who have no idea that that's BS. They don't know, right? And then when you look at the ingredient list on the back of the cereal and everything, you see all the different vitamins and minerals and nutrients that's in the food. And no one does any research to understand how that stuff absorbs into the body, where it's sourced from, or anything. We just read the back of the box and we think, oh, those sound like good things. Yeah, vitamin this, vitamin that, iron. Yeah, okay, sounds good, right? And so people are able to be manipulated into consuming this toxic processed garbage. And then you look at the food pyramid reinforces it, which they've changed the food pyramid 3 times at this point. Essentially, it looks like they're changing the food pyramid once a decade. That's essentially what it's looking like right now. Why? Because it has nothing to do with what's nutritious. Because if it had anything to do with what was nutritious, we would be able to come up with that the first time and it would just be the same. It's about who's got the bigger bag this decade. Okay? That's what it's about. So let's move on. Now, I have a few criticisms about the food pyramid from the 1990s, and it goes a little like this. There was an overemphasis on carbohydrates. So the base of the pyramid, such as grains, breads, pastas, rice, cereal, of course, there was a recommendation that you want to have 6 to 11 servings of this every day. All right. Now, this is going to lead to people consuming large amounts of refined carbohydrates, which can contribute to issues like diabetes, type 2 diabetes, obesity, and then really just metabolic disorders in general. So when we look at the diabetes, the rate of diabetes, the rate of obesity in America, along with many other factors, you see a sharp incline at the rate of these diseases from the 90s to modern day. Why? Well, one of the reasons why was the food pyramid. Now, we've talked about many different reasons why we see the sharp incline, and I use this as a reference because these are some of the major issues we're dealing with today, like over half the population. It's such a large amount of people to the point where it's basically normal. But when did we see the largest influx? Well, there was a time period, between the mid 1900s and the early 90s, so the late 90s or whatever, where there was a big, the marketing and everything, the propaganda just basically got upscaled during that time. So we saw people balloon up, pun intended. All right. Now, one of the other major criticisms I have for the food pyramid is its lack of differentiating between different food quality. All right. The pyramid treated all food groups like they were the same, like they were equal, meaning grains, whole grains, and refined grains were actually lumped together. There was no distinction between a whole grain and a refined grain. There is a huge difference between a whole grain and a refined grain, how the body digests it, but also how those products are produced. Okay. The environmental impact, you could really extrapolate and just have a complete field day with this. They are not the same product, y'all. All right. I just need you to understand that. You probably understand it by now, but for those who don't know, refined foods Okay, refined grains are not the same as whole foods. They are not. They are completely different. They sound similar, they look similar, but they're not the same, especially how the body treats it. And then you've got, healthy sources of quote unquote protein like fish, nuts, legumes. They were grouped with processed meat, meaning you could go get like, you go get a steak from a local organic farmer or a local butcher, and that was weighted the same as going and getting a hot dog. So guess what people did? They went and got the hot dog. It was the more convenient choice, right? The food pyramid didn't say, hey, don't eat hot dogs. You want to go and get something local from a butcher that's, sources their meat from a local organic farmer with no antibiotics and blah, 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 blah. They were like, go get the Frank hot dog. It's the same thing. All right. And so this is what started happening in the school system too. Like they're using these health protocols to make the lunches. Okay. So this lack of distinction misled people into thinking that all options were equally healthy. And now, as adults, we don't know how to differentiate. We don't know what's good and what's not good, to where you have to be taught now that something processed or refined is not the same as something whole. Another crazy thing that the food pyramid did, and there was a lot of marketing around this. They demonized fats. Remember, the food pyramid had the grains and stuff at the bottom, the fats at the top, meaning eat the smallest amount of this, right? When we started demonizing fats, there became like a diet craze surrounding that, because the information, the science was saying, hey, fats make you fat, right? So the food pyramid recommended limiting fats and oils to a minimum part of the diet, which fueled the low fat diet craze of the 90s, which once again, most of us from the 90s, we understand that. We were there, we experienced that. The reality is all fats are not harmful. Okay, healthy fats like stuff from avocado, from nuts, olive oils, unadulterated olive oils, I'll say, they're essential for brain function and overall health. We need these fats. You don't want to take these fats out of your diet. That's a very bad thing. Now, at the same time, they uplifted the low-fat products, which were actually loaded with sugar to improve the taste. Okay, and of course, extra sugar in your diet only leads to more health complications. Now, one of the things I'll point to, you guys remember, I can't believe it's not butter. Everybody who was around during that time remembers the massive campaign, I can't believe it's not butter, right? You had these classy commercials, sophisticated people, they're dining, they're having bread, they have the nice knife to spread the butter, and they put the butter on the thing and they eat it. So delicious. I can't believe this is not real butter. What was it? Margarine, butter substitute, all this other garbage. So, and people, by the way, and I'm sure there's people in the audience right now that still buy this stuff to this day. That propaganda was so strong that people still will buy margarine over butter to this day because they think margarine is healthier. It was never healthier, y'all. It was a lie. And this is the reason why I started this call this way, for you to understand. At the very beginning of this, the food pyramid and everything that came after it, it was literally about lining the pockets of large groups with big bags. People who had money to lobby the government and to create this fake science, put all this fake information out there. It misled the public, and people still to this day don't know the truth. No one is buying margarine over butter because they think that they think that butter people are, I'm sorry, let me restate that. People are buying margarine to this day over butter because they think margarine is healthier. There is a price component to it as well. But how did we get to the point where we would even ever pick margarine over butter? If you guys knew in the 90s, as parents, as adults, if you knew that margarine was one molecule away from being plastic, you would have never messed with it. Right? If they put the real science out there and they taught you what it actually was, you would have never touched the stuff. The only reason why it's in the stores today is because we bought into this lie. And then we wonder why when we do our fasting, when we do our detox, we have this sludge coming out of our system. And I tell you guys too, like, this sludge has been inside you since the 90s. Because if you think about pipes, like in a house, a drain, imagine what would happen to your pipes if every day you put some margarine down the pipe. Right? You put some margarine down the pipe, you put some other synthetic stuff down the pipe, you put some dyes down the pipe. It is going to clog that pipe up, and you're going to have a slow leak until you go with some Drano and you scoop that stuff out. Okay? You have to go in there with a chemical or something to detox that pipe. Right? Drains don't clear themselves. When those synthetic materials get in there, they don't clear themselves. You cannot put healthy stuff down the drain and think that it's going to clear it. You have to go in and clear it with a specific detox. A Drano. You have to use a specialized tool or technique to clear it. So when we look at our body, we're eating margarine, we're gunking up our pipes, and then we want to eat healthy on top of it and think that we're going to see a better outcome. Yeah, you will see a slightly better outcome, but it's not going to resolve your core issues because you're still loaded up with margarine from the 90s. That's why detoxification is so important. I'll give you guys a quick tip. One of the companies that we are affiliated with, called the Root Brands, they created a product. They have a system, but one of the products they created, it's called Restore. It's specifically designed to help open up the elimination pathways. It's specifically designed to clear that old crap out of your system, like margarine. And also, by the way, you guys got to stop consuming it. And the only way that you could really know if you're consuming it or not is to start cooking at home. This is one of the reasons why I tell you guys to cook at home. This is the whole reason why I created my cookbook. In order for you to know what's going in what you eat, you have to prepare it. If you go to McDonald's, do you guys know that around the same time all of this misinformation was going out, McDonald's also changed the fat it used to make its French fries? So for a lot of us, remember the original McDonald's French fries. I think it used fish oil or something like that. I don't remember what exactly it was, but it was an animal fat that it used. Then all this misinformation comes out, and then later McDonald's adopts, like, I don't know, some type of plastic oil, soybean oil, vegetable oil, or whatever they're using now. But it changed the whole French fry experience, right? Y'all remember that. I'm not crazy. Okay. The impact that the food pyramid had on us is far greater than you could ever imagine, because its influences touch so many different sectors, meaning the food pyramid made fast food more toxic than it already was. Isn't that crazy? Isn't that absolutely crazy? Here's the link for Restore. I put the link for Restore in there for anybody who's interested. There's lots of different options for detoxing the body, but I just want you guys to be aware of some of the tools we talk about, because at the end of the day, a lot of us have this misrepresentation in our mind that if we just change what we're eating, it'll be fine. Well, no, that's not going to work, because we don't eat natural foods. So it's essentially an idea. We have to fight fire with fire. We have to have specially formulated supplements to remove those blockages in our system. Now, you could use something like fasting, but the issue with it is that you have to fast for extremely long durations of time, which the mass majority of people find to be very challenging. And this is the reason why we created all of our challenges and programs to help you guys be more efficient fasting, so you can utilize that as a tool. But if you've been struggling with fasting for the past year, it's like, okay, you still need to get healthy. You still need to detox. it might be a good idea to utilize a different tool or therapy. By using something like Restore, you can actually help move the blockages out of your elimination pathways, and then that'll actually help you fast a little bit more efficiently. You know what I mean? And when I very first started teaching health and wellness, I was like, I want to do it with I want to do it with the body's natural resources only. And I do think that was a great way to approach it, just because I learned so much. But one of the things I learned is that human beings, have a hard time fasting. So sometimes we need a little extra tool or something to help us. All right. So McDonald's used to use beef tallow, and now they use a mix of canola oil, soybean oil, and they add in beef flavoring. Well, that makes sense. That makes sense because those oils are absolutely toxic. I want you guys to know, if you're cooking with canola oil and soybean oil right now, stop. Stop. Okay? Why? Well, it goes back to what we talked about as far as the margarine. It is not healthy. It is basically synthetic, and it's going to gunk up your system. And if you're doing all of these things, you're detoxing, you're fasting, you're changing your diet, if you slather all that in toxic oil, you're basically going to nerf your effects. And you're going to be wondering, why am I putting forth all this effort and my progress is not where it wants to be or where it needs to be? Okay? We really got to look at all that stuff. We have to look at our health holistically. All right. So we understand that the food pyramid demonized fats. What else did it do? Well, this whole system actually promoted overeating. Okay. The broad serving recommendations, especially for grains, did not account for variations in caloric need based on age, activity level, health goals, or culture. All right. So many people overate certain food groups while neglecting others. So, of course, we're going to, well, if we don't have, we need something real quick. Let's go to a grain. Why? Because it's the number one thing we're supposed to be eating anyway. It's easily accessible. It's filling. We're not differentiating between whole food grains and refined grains, right? Back in the day, what was the number one bread, y'all? Chat, I need your help. Back in the day, in the 90s, I need you guys to tell me. Don't think from a health standpoint, right? Think from an average consumer standpoint. What was the number one bread? Tell me. I want to know if anybody knows in the chat what the number one bread was. I'm going to give y'all a second. Wonder Bread. Wonder Bread. Wonder Bread. Wonder Bread. So we're making our turkey sandwich, our bologna sandwich, our Spam sandwich, our toast. Why were we eating Wonder Bread? Because they had the biggest bag. They had the biggest marketing. They had the most shelf space. They were one of the special interest groups that were in on the food pyramid. It helped them. I remember being in the second grade, running to the kitchen to get a slice of Wonder Bread. I would take the bread, I would take the crust off, ball it up into a little ball because it just squished right together like dough. I ball it up into a little ball, and I would eat this ball of bread on my way to the pool. Like, that was a thing for us. Like, the way we interacted with Wonder Bread was like nothing I've ever experienced since then. It was insane. It was chewy. It was sweet. It was a lot of things that bread shouldn't have been. Right? It didn't go bad. So if you came from a household that didn't have a lot, you're getting Wonder Bread. Wonder Bread didn't go bad. Wonder Bread would last forever. The most that would happen to Wonder Bread, it would get hard. It would get hard. Okay. So, but what was Wonder Bread? It was a highly processed refined grain. Highly ultra. It was an ultra processed bread. And that's what we consumed the majority of them. This is America. All right. I don't know about other countries. Maybe other countries had, their own version. But this is the reason why we're obese, y'all. This is one of the major reasons why we're obese. Those habits from the 90s have an effect on us as we get to our adulthood or as we get to midlife or whatever. As the body starts to break down and all of that crap that we ate in the 90s, thanks to this freaking food pyramid, it's still in our body because it wasn't real food, which means the body can't break it down. It's still there. And you guys probably wonder, well, Chris, how is that possible? Yo, the intestinal tract is so long. There's so much room. And what happens is it's not 100% of what you eat is still in there, but it's like small bits of it, trace bits of it collect and never go out of the body. Okay? And it also condenses and compacts. Do you guys understand that the hamburger was not just a coincidence? The hamburger, which is an American food, right? Right? Like it's an American food. Hamburgers, when you think of American food, if you go out of the country and you go anywhere and they say when they have the American food, the Mexican food, the Italian food, what do you see inevitably at the American food? Hamburgers. So you have Wonder Bread hamburger buns. You have highly processed meat. Remember, this is not whole meat. This is processed meat. It's ground beef. And what happens to Wonder Bread when you add a little mastication and some saliva? It turns into paste. So you take a toxic, an ultra-processed toxic meat product, you mix it with paste, you consume it, and then you essentially hinder the body's ability to digest this stuff. You are pasting toxic, rotting meat inside of you throughout your intestinal tract. Just boop, boop, pasting it. Boop, 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 boop. And it builds up over time. It just builds up, builds up, builds up, builds up, builds up. All right. So we're overeating. We're neglecting other food groups, which is what we still do to this very day. And what does that do? Well, it causes the fruits and vegetables become underrepresented. There was a time in the 90s where you could go to your grandmother's house and there would always be a bowl of fruit, an apple or orange or something available. It was just what it was. Okay? If you go to someone's house now, the chances of them having a bowl of fruit readily available are slim to none. And if you see it, they're probably a health conscious family. That's a very intentional thing. Whereas in the early 90s, the 80s, the 70s, when you went to people's houses, fresh fruit was just available. It was just a normal thing. If you're going to snack on something, you're going to snack on some grapes. You're going to snack on an apple. You're going to snack on an orange. It's right there. You peel it, you pop it in, you throw away. It's easy. Okay? That's what we snacked on. So your fruits and vegetables were placed in the smaller section of the food pyramid with vague serving recommendations. You're talking 3 to 5 servings of vegetables, 2 to 4 servings of fruit. And this is not enough to meet people's nutritional needs. Because really what's happening with the food pyramid, it should be inverted. The fruits and vegetables and fat should be at the bottom. The grain should be at the top. It should be inverted. Okay? So they're already in smaller groups, and then they have vague recommendations as far as the servings. Like one of the other vague servings that you would hear about in the 90s was 8 glasses of water a day. What is a glass of water? A glass of water is not a unit of measurement. How much is a glass of water? Why are we being taught drink 8 glasses of water? What does that mean? Should I be drinking 24 ounces, 32 ounces, 64 ounces, a gallon? What is 8 glasses of water? They did this stuff to us all the time. And when you guys really start thinking about it, you'll see examples. You'll see examples of the propaganda and the manipulation and the vagueness. And this is all done on purpose. These people know exactly what to do, what to misrepresent, what to leave out. Okay. Now, as we mentioned earlier, the food pyramid did not addressed processed foods versus whole foods. The food pyramid failed to highlight the difference between, your sugary cereals versus like a whole nutritional dense option. So as a result, people could follow the pyramid, but they're going to still eat unhealthy, heavily processed, ultra processed foods, which is what we see today. Now, at the time, it wasn't as prevalent. It was new. We were just now getting into it. People still had a lot of their old habits. But now in 2025, we see people eating purely ultra processed food menus. Can you imagine? The normal adult person in America eats a diet almost exclusively ultra processed foods. It's insane. It's insane. Back in the day, we would joke and people would be like, my mom would be like, Chris, all you did was eat some fries. You need to eat some real food, blah, 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 blah. I'd be like, Ma, that was a complete meal. I got my vegetable, I got my fruits, I got my fat, I got my sugar, because the ketchup condiment had so many ingredients in it. And we would say it jokingly. We knew it was BS, right? A pizza's got all the food groups. You get your grain, you get your cheese, you get your wheat, you get your meat, you get your vegetable, you get your fruit. It's the complete package. We would joke about that, but now people are doing it for real. Like they're eating ultra processed foods exclusively and wondering why they're blowing up like a balloon, or why they have acne, or why at the age of 28 they look like they're 40. And it's like people don't understand, because we've been miseducated for so long. A lie told 1,000 times becomes the truth. And ultimately, the industry influenced this pyramid. Okay. The food industry influenced the pyramid, which prioritized profits over health. Why? Because my job as a corporation is to make money for the shareholders. It's not to make people healthy. Has nothing to do with it. Okay. If I'm in bed with, if I've got contracts with farmers, and I've got them contracted to make X amount of wheat, to provide X amount of wheat for 50 years for a certain price point, okay? I have to move that wheat. I got to move that product, and I got to make it make sense to the public so that they buy into it and they purchase it. Because if they ever find out that it's unhealthy, they'll stop buying it. So I have to manipulate the science. I have to lobby. It's the same thing that the dairy industry did as well, okay? They emphasized the benefit of milk. Do y'all remember in the 90s, Got Milk, the Got Milk campaign? Even though the mass majority of Americans are lactose intolerant, they still came up with science and marketing to say that it was good for you, right? Milk, it does the body good. You want strong bones? Drink milk. The crazy thing about it is, as we look at outcomes nearly 2 decades later, what do we see? A rapid increase of osteoporosis from the late 80s until present day. Because the milk was not actually helping us, because it was so toxic. It was actually making our bones more fragile, more susceptible to cracks and bone breaks, which helps what? The health industry. The more broken bones they get to sew up, the more money they make. The more casts they're putting on children, the more money they're making. Okay? And then the bones come back less strong because you're fueling it with milk. I had a friend who would not drink water. He would not drink water. The only thing he drank was milk and Kool-Aid and sugary drinks, soda. He would not drink water. As a matter of fact, to this very day, it is a very common occurrence for me to come across people that say they don't drink water. I meet them all the time through the AHA brand. They'll be like, Chris, I really struggle to drink water. I really don't like water. How did that happen? How did something that is designed to be a life source of what I call a life fluid, how did it become that we don't like it? That is absurd. It's like saying, I don't like the sun. You need the sun. There's no liking it or not liking it. It is a necessity. You need the sun. You need water. You need fresh air. These things aren't up for debate. It's not about whether you like it or not. It's what you need. It's not I don't like that. There's I'll just do an alternative. Doesn't work that way. Now, I touched on this a little bit earlier, but the food pyramid lacked customization. Okay. It used a one-size-fits-all approach, which failed to account for individual dietary needs, cultural preferences, and then specific health conditions. One of the things we talk about when it comes to the alkaline diet is Dr. Sebi created the alkaline diet as a prescription. It's a very specific prescription for a very specific group of people that are experiencing dis-ease in the body. That is what it's for. That's the food pyramid. There should be small little segments of the food pyramid in different segments of life. Like if they were going to do it for real, there would be different little segments of food pyramids depending on some of these factors. But the food pyramid just simply neglected that. You think that wasn't on purpose? You think that these very intelligent people didn't think, different people have different needs, they're different sizes, they come from different cultures, they have different dietary habits. We should create individual, food pyramids for them. No, they want everybody on one size fits all. You know who else does it? Mainstream medical practices. It's a one size fits all. When you get on your vaccine schedule, they don't take into consideration your age, your sex, your ethnicity, any pre-existing health conditions. It's you're a human being. You were born in the hospital. You start getting shots, and here's the schedule, and everybody's getting the same amount of shots. Nothing is one size fits all, especially health and wellness. Health and wellness is probably the one thing that's the furthest away from one size fits all. Even one size fits all hats don't fit everybody. Y'all know what I'm talking about? The one size fit all hat doesn't fit everybody. Everybody knows there's limitations to the one size fit all hat or clothing. Is it going to one size fits most? Yeah, sure. But one size fits all doesn't exist anywhere. The last thing I'll say about the food pyramid is that it neglected nutrients and timing. It rejected balance. There's no balance. There's no information about the timing. When should you have certain nutrients? There's none of that. There's none about the frequency of eating. None of that. As a matter of fact, one of the things they did to us, they promoted that 3 square meals a day plus snacks in between, right? That's what they promoted at the time. They also heavily promoted breakfast. Breakfast is the most important meal of the day, okay? And now we're going to get into specifically one of the players that had a huge impact. We're gonna get into one of the players that had a huge impact, and it's Kellogg's cornflakes, okay, or the Kellogg's brand, the Kellogg's cereal brand. Who was getting subsidized by the government? Who was in all of the schools in America? Who was on the shelf of every single grocery store in America? It was so bad when it comes to like Kellogg's. There are staples. There are certain staples of different holidays where you use their cereal to make treats. Rice Krispie treats. There was this chew. Okay, well, you had the peanut butter chew, which, listen, I'm not going to hold y'all. Even to this day, I'll be like, yo, those chews were good. That you would make out of cornflakes. It was like a cornflake, it's peanut butter, and then you use like, what's that really sweet syrup? Corn syrup, I think it was. Something like that. I think it was like corn syrup, peanut butter, and then you would heat it up, and then you would add the cornflakes to it, and then you would put that mixture on like a sheet of wax paper. You kind of press it, and you like cut it up into bars or whatever. That stuff was absolutely fire. Okay, but somehow this cereal, this ultra processed grain, weaved itself into every facet. Kiro syrup. Yeah, there you go. Kiro syrup, whatever, however it's pronounced. Y'all know what I'm talking about. You know exactly what I'm talking about. That clear syrup. All right. So Kellogg's Corn Flakes was actually created by Dr. John Harvey Kellogg and his younger brother, Will Keith Kellogg, in the 19th century. Okay. So Dr. Kellogg was a physician and the superintendent of Battle Creek Sanitarium. That was a health and wellness center in Michigan that promoted veganism and exercise as well as holistic healing. Now, the sanitarium followed the principles of the Seventh-day Adventist Church. So they emphasized a simple plant-based diet, abstinence from alcohol, tobacco, and other stimulating or rich foods. They also believed that poor health led to sinful behavior. So there is a religious undertone to the creators of the Kellogg's Corn Flake cereal, as well as that Kellogg's brand. That's very important to understand, because once we start adding other elements to it, it's no longer prioritizing necessarily health and wellness, because there's these alternative beliefs that are impacting decision making and things of that nature. We need to understand that. Me personally, if I'm going to listen to a health source talking about health and wellness, all I need is the focus to be on the top priority is the health of the food. I don't need anybody's religious beliefs. I don't need anybody's ideologies. I don't need anybody's extra agendas involved. Is this healthy? Let's use the real scientific method. How does my body absorb it? How does my body digest it? What benefits are there? What are the negative side effects? That's all I care about. Okay? Just the hard science. I don't care about your ideology, but we have to understand the origins. Now, why did they invent cornflakes? They wanted to create dietary reform. Dr. Kellogg believed that a bland diet was a way to curb passions and desires. This is the first thing. That was the number one priority. The goal was to curb passions and desires. Now, you might say, okay, you want to curb certain passions and desires, but this is a blanket statement. Dr. Kellogg believed that a bland diet was a way to curb passions and desires. What's one of the first questions you ask someone when you meet them? Okay. This is somebody that you're looking to court, date, marry, get into a relationship, whatever. What is one of the first questions that we ask somebody when we're getting to know them? What are you passionate about? Now, you see here, this guy's idea was to extinguish people's passion through this freaking cereal, okay, through chemistry. Now, when he says passion and desires, he's also including sexual urges. Particularly, he was obsessed with masturbation, okay? He saw it as a healthy and unmoral thing. Now, while I understand some of the health implications of overdoing it, I do get that. This guy was obsessed with it. Okay, it was unhealthy. He was too into it. It was creepy. It was weird. This wasn't a normal level of interest. It was a hyper interest in this. He thought that spicy and fatty or indulgent foods stimulated undesirable behaviors. Okay, once again, this is his ideology from his religious beliefs. And that a plain and simple diet would promote physical and moral health. As you see, everything is explained alongside of morality and, more of like a religious undertone to it. Now, for you, your personal beliefs, that's fine. I don't have a problem with that. I have a problem with you having the ability to impact hundreds of millions of people, okay, over the course of 2 or 3 generations based on your very specific ideology. and really having no regard for what negative impacts might happen from this dietary strategy or this dietary practice, and people being completely oblivious to what it's all about. All right. Now, the actual Kellogg's cereal was created accidentally in 1894. The brothers were experimenting with ways to create a healthy vegetarian meal for patients. Okay, remember they ran the sanitarium. So they accidentally discovered a method of flaking boiled wheat. Later, they applied that process to corn, creating what became cornflakes. So that's how cornflakes were born. Now, the flakes were baked and served as a nutritious and easy to digest breakfast cereal for the sanitarium's patients, which may have been beneficial for a period of time under those very specific circumstances. But one of the Kellogg's brother, the younger brother, Will, actually saw a commercial implications for this cereal, and he wanted to market it to the general public. So in 1906, he founded the Kellogg's company, and he added sugar to the flakes to make them more appealing to consumers, something that his brother John was opposed to because it went against the health philosophy. So his brother John created this cereal for a very, very specific reason. Okay, his brother Will said, hey, we can make a lot of money off of this thing. We can make tons of money off this if we're able to mass produce it and we can get the right people behind it. So he made the company, and he went off, he added a little sugar to it, started marketing campaigns, colorful boxes. He was probably lobbying to the government. This is why we talked about lobbying earlier. He was probably part of why the food pyramid had grains as, 6 to 11 servings a day, and why there was such vagueness about what grains were good, what grains weren't. So then he got subsidized by the government, right? Because this is why they're able to make this stuff so cheap, because the government subsidized them. And then you've got the Department of Education saying, hey, yo, why don't you guys come and serve this stuff to the children for breakfast? It's the perfect storm. Everybody gets paid. Everybody gets paid. Everybody's happy. The problem is, as we look at the rate of obesity, the rate of diabetes, it shoots up like a rocket after all of this is implemented. So everybody's happy. Everybody's getting paid, but we take the brunt of it. Best believe they weren't feeding their children this crap. So, of course, the sugary version of the Kellogg's Flakes became widely popular, and Kellogg's company grew to the largest breakfast manufacturer in the world. Not just the United States, it's everywhere. All right. So, okay, you take something that supposedly was supposed to be a health product. But if you look into Dr. Kellogg's, he was crazy. And it really wasn't even about that. It was never about health. What it was really about was suppressing people's passion and desires. So then you market these types of cereals like Wheaties, for example, with some of the most passionate people that we can think of, Olympic athletes. We use Olympic athletes to market a cereal that's going to eliminate our passion and desires. Talk about a reverse Uno. Like this, when you really look at how all this stuff is laid out, it's diabolical. It's insane. This is literally just one example. This is just one example. Do you have any idea how deep this rabbit hole goes? We're talking about the food pyramid, and we're talking about one example from the food pyramid, how all this stuff happened. This is the reason why it's so imperative to understand fundamentally, what should you eat? How should you eat? When should you eat? What is the benefit of eating? What's the goal of eating? How do we determine if something is good for us, if it's bad for us? Like, if you understand these fundamental things, none of this you cannot have the wool pulled over your eyes. Like, literally, when I started to learn all of this stuff, my favorite cereal was Raisin Bran Crunch. So as an adult, my favorite cereal was Raisin Bran Crunch. As a child, it was Captain Crunch. Both of those cereals injured me or had a detrimental impact. Captain Crunch, guys, what happens when you eat Captain Crunch? What happens? Anybody who's had Captain Crunch, tell me what happens to you when you eat Captain Crunch. Put it in the chat. I want to see if y'all know. And then, they came out with Oops All Berries because they had the variation of the Captain Crunch, which had the original Captain Crunch cereal, and then they had the one that had the berries in it. It destroys the roof of your mouth. You got it. It destroys the roof of your mouth, and we eat it anyway. Every child knows Captain Crunch is trifling for your mouth. Okay? Like we would mess up our mouth eating this cereal, and we did not care. Why? Because we were addicted. Meanwhile, we're consuming these bright, colorful cereals that have these endocrine disrupting dyes in it that are giving us gynomastica, that's giving us painful menstrual cycles, that's giving us poor digestion, messing up our gut. We don't care. We're going to eat it anyway because it's good. We're addicted to it. What did Raisin Bran Crunch do? It gave me gas like crazy. It's supposed to be a healthy cereal. Raisin Bran Crunch? Now, Raisin Bran was the healthy cereal, but then Raisin Bran Crunch added the granola. Still supposed to be healthy. I mean, absolutely delicious stuff. Trifling. Terrible for you. The body could not digest that stuff. It wasn't real. It was ultra processed refined grains. It wasn't good for me. And then I'm drinking it with a bowl of pus milk. It was absolute trash. I saw a picture of somebody who posted their meal prep. This person meal preps their cereal, y'all. That's how bad it is. You're meal prepping cereal? What? This is insane. Y'all remember back in the day, the Kellogg's company and all them, they came up with this really unique way to package cereal in these little tiny boxes. So you get this little box of cereal. It had perforated lines in the cardboard. You pop it open, you'd open the bag of cereal, and you pour the milk right in. It was a portable cereal. These guys were geniuses. We were eating cereal for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. We were eating cereal. We went on camp vacation. We were eating cereal at church. We ate cereal at the hospital. Cereal was everywhere. Then we would take dried cereal, put it in a little Ziploc bag, and we'd give it to our children as a little snack. Here's a recommendation. Please read Fat, Sugar, Salt. It's an eye-opener. Fat, Sugar, Salt. There you go. So I created a book, y'all. Y'all know about it. This ain't no food pyramid. Man, it's always so bright. You can't even see it. Almost alkaline. Cook your way to better health. It's my cookbook. Okay, 31 recipes in here. I don't know if I told y'all, but I recently gave one of the recipes to a friend of mine to try. And literally, I've been getting calls about this recipe for the past 2 weeks. Talking about how much they're craving it, how much they enjoyed it, how good it was, how good their bowels were after they ate it. This is a guide to help transition you away from this illogical misinformation campaign called the food pyramid. We were not taught how to eat properly, how to consume, how to cook. They removed home economic class from our school system. Why did they do that? Because they wanted people eating cereal. If you think that home economics was removed for any other reason than the fact that there were large interest groups, special interest groups that were lobbying to get people out of the habit of cooking and creating their own foods, you are sorely mistaken. It was all part of it. Everything is orchestrated. Nothing is done by accident. Why else will we get rid of home economics? What else does getting rid of home economics do? Well, if you were taught how to sew, you certainly don't want people learning how to do that because you want to sell them more clothes, right? If people don't know how to sew, they have to buy new clothes. Do you guys understand? There was a time when people would pass down a pair of jeans 2, 3, 4 generations, and they would just sew. They would just sew the hose up. They didn't have to go out and buy new clothes. Why is it so expensive to take care of children? Because you got to buy new clothes for them every single year, right? Children grow out of stuff. You got to buy them this expensive cereal every day because children love sugary, sweet cereal. You're buying them all this stuff. You're spending all this money on things that you don't need to because we weren't taught how to maintain children. They removed that knowledge from our schooling system. Our parents didn't pass it down because they were so busy getting college education and working 9 to 5s as our economy started to crumble. Right? So the parents aren't educating the children. The school system's not educating the children. And then Barney and all the other little TV shows were miseducating. This is the reason why we are in the place that we are right now. None of this was done by accident. This couldn't happen by accident. This was done by design. All right, I'm going to put the link to the cookbook in the chat. Hit the like button for me, y'all, if you guys enjoyed this, the call tonight. Also, if you're new to the channel, subscribe. I've got a ton of live streams I've been doing lately. So there's a nice archive of live streams if you guys want to go back and check it out. I'll be continuing to do more live streams as we move into 2025. It's something I've been wanting to do for a long time, so I'm glad I'm finally doing it. I'm proud of myself for making progress. I hope you guys really got something good out of this and it made you think. This is just the tip of the iceberg. This is not even close to everything. But I think that if you kind of start to understand the way things work and you understand how to look at what they've done in the past, meat, it's what's for dinner. Remember? Meat, it's what's for dinner. The signs everywhere. If you just take a look at what happened in the past and how it impacted our health and wellness today, you can see what they're doing today in real time, and you can stop it in its tracks. We have to stop being lazy. We have to start cooking from scratch. We have to start being proactive about our health and wellness. We have to assume we don't know anything about health and wellness, not based on any traditional education that we've received. If you're not reading books, if you're not, consuming wellness content from a reliable source, if you're not doing your own experimentation, you have to assume that you don't know anything about health and wellness. As a matter of fact, I will go as far to say that what they teach us is usually the reverse of what is actually true. Meaning, when you look at the food pyramid, how it should be oriented is upside down. The things on the top should be on the bottom of the food pyramid, and the things on the bottom should be on the top. That's literally the reverse. So the proof is in the pudding. That's what they do. All right. We're going to have a great week, y'all. I appreciate you. We've got some really, really cool content coming. I just had an interview with the guy. I'm not going to tell you guys who it is yet. You're going to have to wait until the interview comes out. It was a doozy. It was the second longest interview I've ever done. I'm considering releasing it in 2 parts. You guys let me know if you want. Do you want a 3-hour interview, or would you want like 3 or 2 parts? Put it in the chat real quick. I'm curious. Do you guys prefer just give me all of the content right now, or do you prefer preferred parts? I'm glad you guys are enjoying the lives. I did an interview years ago with Kelly Starr. I think it was a 4-hour interview, I believe, and I did it in 2 different parts. So a lot has changed from the 70s and the 90s and the 80s. A lot has changed. The way things have evolved is not benefiting us, okay? We are not moving in the right direction. We are not moving in the right direction. We have to understand that. We're not moving in the right direction. We have to change what we're doing. We do not plan to fail. We fail to plan. Do not allow school systems, public education, TV, or anybody else to educate your children on food, health, wellness. What is the right thing to do? Do not. They are going to get misinformation. All right. I appreciate y'all. Enjoy the rest of your evening. As always, the application of knowledge is power, and I am